are traffic bottlenecking, lots of traffic coming down through there. It would help people going to the schools. And again, if we don't have any money to do any of this, that's one thing. But I think if we are going to do anything with a new plat for this property, then I would highly recommend that we include a road from one to the other. But that's down the road quite a ways. We're just an advisory to the council, and they'll be making the final decision. Is there anyone else with their hand raised, Eric?
We have Kelly with her hand up again, and I have several people in chat and in the attendance that want to say something.
Great. Well, we've got a half hour left before our next meeting. So, Kelly, is your hand up to talk, or did you just forget to put it down? Kelly?
Yep, sorry. My hand is actually up. I didn't realize I had to take it down, but now I've learned. My question, I guess, is of that money that we used to take down the Jesse Lee home, how much is left? Like, is the project done so now we know if we have left over or not? Is there any money to make some sort of memorial from that, or would we have to fundraise that money to make a memorial of some sort now?
So currently the project is not complete and we do not have a final number. So once the project is complete, slated complete, any money that's left over we would use towards a memorial. We would not fundraise. We would use that we could, and then possibly go to council to decide what would need to be done next to complete. We'd have to do a conceptual drawing, design, all of that would have to be done with the funds.
Right. Is it looking like we'll have any money left over, or it's like way over budget?
It's not over budget, but because of the delays that we've received, it has changed our scope of work.
Okay. And then another question really quick, it's my understanding that if we were to have more properties for homes in Stewart, that would help us with not only the tax base, but also with the electrical charges. Isn't it like the more houses that we have, the more the electrical charges get spread out amongst people, and so it might bring our electrical bills down?
I couldn't answer that. I'm not an electrician or run the electric department.
Or utilities.
I thought we talked about this in the past, so I just didn't know if somebody remembered or not.
I don't remember that, Kelly.
Okay.
Okay, one more round of commissioner before I turn it over to those members of the public. Commissioner Swan, did you want to weigh in on anything yet, or wait for the public's comment? Okay. Eric, why don't you go ahead and call somebody from the public?
Well, we got somebody on the phone. Is that Mr. Swan? Nope. Okay. So we have Christy in the Zoom meeting. Christy, can you hear us?
Remember to unmute yourself.
Okay, how's that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I sent a short little comment.
Excuse me, just for those of us that are on here and can't see anybody, could you just state your name and whether you live inside or outside the city? Thanks.
Okay. Yes, my name is Christy Bagula. My maiden name is Skinner, so I've lived here all my life. I'm now 68. I have the gray home that sits south of this property that's in discussion.
Yes.
And so can I just read a few sentences from my comments, or?
Sure. Go ahead, Christy.
Okay. I've lived here and I've seen many ideas come and go for the use of the Jesse Lee home. over the last 50 years or so. And it just seems like empty land just gets pushed toward housing. And I just want to remind people that we have Gateway Apartments, Kimberly Court Apartments, Pacific Rim Apartments, Bayside Apartments, Bear Mountain Apartments, Glacier View Senior Citizens Apartments, and then Doorway is developed with single-family homes all the way up. No open spaces and no sidewalks were developed along Doorway, and then the city just got that grant a few years ago to put in ditches everywhere for drainage, so there's a 4-foot ditch. So there's no place for the kids to walk all along. There's lots of kids, a new subdivision going in. The land that Avtech sits on used to be the grade school. There were merry-go-rounds and playgrounds and swings, ball playing area, ice skating in the winter, and essentially Seward doesn't have just a huge area for kids or people or residents to go and play. The waterfront, I don't know how that is built in, but it's not for residents. It's for motorhomes and campers in the summer. There's a small tot lot there. The Seward schools have playgrounds up in that area, but you're not allowed to use them. They have a sign there under threat of camera surveillance. They're forced people not to be able to use the swings. And personally, many of my friends lived in Jesse Lee homes. They were not there by choice, but because their parents and relatives had died from the mass epidemics brought to their northern villages. I look back on it now and wonder how my classmates stayed so cheerful. I hope the Jesse Lee home property is dedicated as a tribute to the orphan children who once lived there. Don't let the children's history in the Jesse Lee home completely disappear with the destruction of the physical buildings. They deserve more than a plaque. And please don't return it into just another housing complex. I think a green space for children and residents to enjoy is the very best use of the property. The remaining property is smaller than you think. Once the parking area is incorporated, there'll be just enough space for small green area for local families to gather and play. And just personally, it will be lovely to hear children's voices again on the Jesse Lee home property. Just mostly a reminder that property has a lot of history for orphan children, and to turn it in just to another housing unit just seems, almost sacrilegious. And I thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you, Christy. Next commenter.
We had Cheryl Cease, who was next, and I'll ask her to unmute.
Go ahead, Cheryl. Remember to unmute yourself, Cheryl.
I assumed you were asking for the other Cheryl Cease.
No.
Is this Cheryl Cease of Gary Cease, or is this
Yes,
Cheryl?
it is.
Okay, yeah, we've been trying to get Gary. It looked like he needed or wanted to comment, but you were signed in under public instead of the commission, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Is Gary, did Gary want to speak, or you, Cheryl? Go ahead.
I'm going to let Cheryl speak.
Thank you, Gary. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I guess I would just echo what Christy just shared. I think that Jesse Lee is too great a point of history for Seward and for to turn into another apartment complex. And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see Nicole Lawrence's name as someone who had a question?
Yes.
Nicole, remember to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Nicole Lawrence. I live outside of city limits. I just had a few questions, just trying to get a read on what everybody's opinions are. But I was curious if anyone had estimated the value of the property, if it were sold, and where those proceeds would go for the city, if any of that property were sold.
Can only sell it.
Community Development Director Wild, do you have a response to where the money would go if parts or all were sold?
If the property were sold, we could only go by the estimated land value, which is $402,000 right now. And that would
For
go,
all 266 acres?
yes.
Okay, and where does that money go for the city?
It would
if a
go
sale
into the
occurs?
general fund.
Okay. And then I guess my other question just had to do with parking. It just looks like a lot of the space would be used for parking if it were a park, and I completely understand with having green space and having a memorial and using at least some of the space for that. Is it required by city code that there has to be so much space for parking if it's just a park? Because I know a lot of people, like, Christy was talking about living in that area, and I know there's a lot of families in that area, people who live in apartments and Underwood Way. It's a pretty dense housing area, so I would assume that a lot of those people could or would walk to enjoy the outdoor space. So is the parking required for a park?
Ms. Lawrence, yes, it's a 1-to-4 ratio.
1 to 4, what?
For, when we're looking at how many people could fit in some of these public spaces that the rec center / community center, the pavilions, things like that.
The amount of people that would even just use it as a park, you have to take that into consideration and provide adequate parking for, if all 2.66 acres were designated as a park, you'd have to break that down and put in at least one parking space for every 4 people that could be in the park at one time.
Okay, that's just an interesting estimation of how people in the park. I am curious for the Branson Pavilion, is that the same down there? It seems like there's pretty limited parking by the pavilion, or do you guys count that?
It is the same.
Which parking lot is it that you count as
There's
part of the
not a
Branson
parking
Pavilion?
lot, it's right by the hill there, as well as in front, all the parallel parking, and then the campground on the other side, or on the other side of the restrooms. That was all considered part of that park.
That's 34
The
spaces.
campground, okay.
And it's 34 spaces.
Okay, that makes sense. Those are all the questions that I have at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else from the public that you see, Eric?
No, Nicole was the last person that had her name in there, or her
Okay.
hand raised.
If there's someone else out there on the phone or on this Zoom call, Zoom meeting, that would like to speak, please raise your hand so you can be recognized. I'm going to go back to Commissioner Swan one more time to see if he wanted to speak.
I still can't hear him.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I actually don't have any comments, but I didn't know you could hear me.
Ah, yes, we can see you and hear you. Okay,
Nope, I'm just listening right now.
all right. If we don't have anybody else, I see a number 2 up by hand. Do you see someone, Eric?
Yes, we got Kelly put her hand up and Christy put her hand up again.
Okay, I do have some comments at some point, but I'll go ahead and go back to the commission. So Kelly first and then Christy.
Okay.
Kelly, go ahead.
I was just wondering, as far as like parks, zoning for parks goes, have we run into problems with spot zoning for parks? Because that's kind of what they're supposed to be, is like a spot that is just a park. And I was just wondering if that is that going to play a part in whether or not we can actually zone this whole thing as a park or not?
It's more than an acre, Kelly, so anything over an acre is not, it meets the requirements, doesn't meet the requirements for spot zoning. And then the parks that we do have areas that have playground equipment on them that they are not zoned park. They're zoned in the district that they currently reside in.
Christie, did you have an additional comment?
One second.
Christie Skinner, do you have an additional comment?
There we
Christie
go.
Austin.
I had to unmute, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just had a question. That new subdivision that's going in just north of the Jesse Lee area, were there any children's areas incorporated in that plan?
No, ma'am, there were not, and that's the Gateway Subdivision.
No, not well, there's already a Gateway
Phoenix.
subdivision. I meant that brand new one.
Yeah, that's
not been built yet.
off of Phoenix, that they cleared the trees out up there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be triplexes and duplexes and.
Yeah, it's a mix of single-family home duplexes and triplexes, and it does not have any playground areas zoned for it or designed for it.
Okay, I guess I just want to reiterate then, there's just no place for kids to play. All those kids on Doorway, this new subdivision, it just, I don't know, I feel very strongly that the Jesse Lee area where kids were kept as orphans, it needs to be an area for children and a memorial for the children that had to live there. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, I have a question for you based on the comments that we received. There was a lot of comments that said, please no more Section 8 housing or income-adjusted housing. If someone were to purchase a piece of property, if it met the size for what they wanted to build, is there any way you could stop them from building Section 8 housing?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I had a couple of more comments from the comprehensive plan under our economic base, and this was part of our section called Seward Community Vision and Values. Under economic base, it said encourage the development of infrastructure expansion plans for currently undeveloped residential and commercial property, and promote infill development by encouraging and promoting construction on vacant sites in areas of the city which are already established. And under the goals, objectives, and implementation action plans, under land use, the first item under there was to promote residential and commercial development within the city of Seward and its vicinity in accordance with community values. And there's 5 or 6 points under that section. Expand the opportunity for affordable, diverse, year-round housing through appropriate land use regulations. Encourage development of new housing in Seward. Support a range of housing choices that meet the needs of people in various income and age groups. Create incentives to provide land for housing development within the city of Seward. Assess solutions to extend cost-effective utilities to home sites of land zone for residential development. And then I already mentioned the thing about the transportation. And if it could be engineered, it could be engineered, but yeah, there would be work and cost. But there's 2.66 acres up there, and I think that there's a mix of housing in the area now. Yes, there's a lot of apartment buildings to the south and east of this property, single family to the west, some mixed housing on the new property off of Phoenix. Christie's house, I think, is a duplex or triplex. And then there's, I think, a fourplex behind the property and a big single-family home up at the end of that road. So it is a mix, and there is only that one little lot for playground use, and I wasn't aware that the school limited using their property, but the swing sets are a long way away from this property. I do want to mention that the city also has the Fort Raymond property that, at least I've yet to see a development plan on, which is, it's bigger than this property, so some of the concepts mentioned in the comments I know have been discussed as possibilities for the Fort Raymond area. I don't think we ever discussed any housing in the Fort Raymond area. We did discuss recreation facilities, ice skating, roller rinks, basketball courts. We discussed commercial development. So just a few of the talking points I thought I'd throw out. We have about 5 to 7 minutes left before we need to close this meeting and then have our regular scheduled public planning and zoning commission meeting, which the topic is the resolution changing the zoning from multi-family residential R3 to park for this 2.66 acres. So, commission first, any comments?
Madam Chair, can I just add to your comprehensive plan something out of our strategic plan that's also listed?
Certainly.
Our strategic plan has develop and improve public playgrounds, and it specifically states develop a neighborhood park in the Gateway Subdivision area.
Great.
So just wanted to put that, because we reference the comprehensive plan and we always fail to reference the strategic plan at the same time. And then,
Yeah, I pulled that strategic plan, but there was probably something in there on housing as well, but thank you for bringing up the park section.
And then
What
as
else?
far as your, the Fort Raymond property, we did, planning and zoning did work on rezoning that to auto commercial, and we have been working diligently in the community development department to come back with some conceptual designs based off of interaction from the public.
Okay, all right. So I'm sorry I brought that up. I was just trying to tie it into some of the ideas that were mentioned for this Jesse Lee property, but that's for a different topic because it's not what's on our topic for tonight. So I'm going to ask the commission any final thoughts. We will also be having a public discussion of this at our meeting in a few minutes.
So we'll stop feed, right?
The Zoom will stay up.
Okay, so the Zoom's gonna stay up, Cindy, and then we're gonna stop the feed through YouTube and GCI so we can change into meeting mode.
Okay, and so you want the commission to just stay on?
Yes, please.
Okay, and any of the public that wishes to stay on?
Yeah, if they wanna speak during citizen comments, if they wanna stay on, we'll recognize them during the citizen comment portion of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.